Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk about this story out of Westchester, New York. Yes, this is outside of New York City, and this is a story of what happens when a social worker actually ends up confronting a real legitimate criminal. Now, to be clear, right off the top, I want to point out that the social worker was not sent in order to deal with this criminal. She ended up encountering this person by accident, but the fact of the matter is, for all these defund and abolish the police people who think you can deploy unarmed social workers in order to deal with crazy, unhinged, violent people, this should be a teachable moment. And in fact, the response to this, the proposed solution for social workers going forward, is so absurd and ridiculous that we have to cover it. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everyone who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Westchester County social worker tonight fighting for her life after she was attacked on the job.
So right off the top, you have the local CBS affiliate saying that a social worker is fighting for her life after an encounter with a criminal in what is being labeled one of the worst attacks on a social worker in Westchester history.
That is the Peekskill Police Department right over there, and this is where it happened.
And of course, the irony of the police department being right across the street from this particular building cannot be undersold because, again, these people want to replace the police officer, replace the cop with the social worker, and here we have an instance of what happens when an unarmed person trained in de-escalation tactics actually runs up against a legitimate, insane criminal, a violent person who, by the way, is out on the streets due to bail reform. Yes, this is also a bail reform case, not only a teachable moment about the uselessness of social workers in legitimate police situations, but also bail reform, because of course it's bail reform because it's New York State.
The criminal complaint details a horrific crime. 56-year-old Maria Cotto punched and repeatedly kicked by a man wearing heavy boots.
So look, I appreciate local news. I've given them credit where credit is due, but the fact of the matter is, their ability to highlight unimportant details while ignoring important ones right on this page was fully on display right there. So you could see right there that they highlight the fact that this guy was wearing heavy boots. I don't know if you guys know this, but his boots were heavy. They were heavy duty. They were serious boots. But the fact of the matter is, right in that same excerpt, you see the word brain bleed because Maria Cotto, the 56-year-old social worker, suffered a brain bleed due to this attack, due to this attempted murder. And of course, for some reason, even though they're zooming in on that, they're focusing on the boots, the footwear, the shoes. What are we doing here?
After the Westchester County social worker mistakenly knocked on his door while making a field visit.
She came in looking for somebody to live on the third floor.
This man spoke to me off camera. He says the victim ran into his apartment as the attacker followed.
So to be clear, you did hear that right. This was not a situation where the social worker was deployed in order to deal with this individual. This was a situation where she was doing what appeared to be a routine visit, appeared to be a normal action for a social worker, but she knocked on a door and inadvertently it was the door of a criminal and she was viciously attacked because of that. Again, this is the people that people say we should send in to deal with these criminals intentionally, and this woman couldn't even avoid this criminal accidentally. She ended up encountering him, he ended up attacking her immediately, and of course, those de-escalation techniques, this discussion via the social worker powers, did not do anything. You needed the police in this situation, and without the police, this woman was nearly killed.
What did he say as he was doing this?
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you, bitch. I'm gonna kill you, bitch. And she fell down flat on the floor, face down.
The man says he grabbed the suspect by the neck, trying to stop the attack.
So this is obviously an insane situation, but I want to make it clear that there was no setup, there was nothing to presume that this would be an insane situation. This woman was doing a routine visit. She inadvertently knocked on somebody's door. Typically, when you knock on the wrong door, you don't expect to be engaged in mortal combat, but this should be something that the people who say, why do you need a firearm? Why do we need to send an armed police officer in order to deal with this? Should should take home with them. You never know when these situations are going to escalate out of hand. The reason why police officers are armed during traffic stops, during all these different various incidents that 99 times out of 100 are completely innocuous, is for these particular instances right here, when things go crazy, when people go crazy, when people lose their mind and all of a sudden something routine turns out to not be routine. And this woman was beaten horribly. You have a neighbor, luckily, very much in the mode of, I need to defend this woman, who tried to put this guy in a chokehold because, again, these people don't have police officer training. And even though neck restraint is not a thing that is typically done in New York State by New York State police departments, this is what the average untrained non-police officer tends to do. So you ended up in a situation where you have a career criminal, a violent monster, who ends up attacking a social worker, and the response from civilians, because there's no police engaged in this situation, is to use neck restraint to try to save this woman's life. And by the way, if she makes a full recovery, this man who doesn't want to show his face on camera for fear of retaliation, because of course there might be retaliation, is a hero in my mind. But the fact of the matter is, he never should have to be, and we are moving towards a system where we send social workers more than police officers, and these situations where everyday citizens are going to have to be third-party interveners are going to go up exponentially if the left gets their way. Because again, they say these criminals are just poor. They just want to feed their starving family. They just need social services, mental health counseling, and all of that. But when push comes to shove and reality hits these social workers square in the face, stomps them out in those heavy boots, they will learn that that is not the case. This guy had no reason to attack her. He was annoyed that she knocked on his door and he tried to kill her. He chased her into another apartment, continuing to attempt to murder her. He fought off a neighbor of his who was trying to stop him, all just because, again, he wanted to kill her for daring to knock on the wrong door. This is not normal behavior. This is not behavior that you de-escalate with some training in the social work. This is something that a police officer needs to deal with. Somebody who's armed needs to deal with. Because again, if this guy would have brought out a knife, if this guy would have had a gun, it would have been over not only for the social worker, but it would have been over for this neighbor who tried to intervene.
31-year-old Hasim Jenkins is charged with attempted murder and assault. He's being held without bail and had skipped several court appearances on an October disorderly conduct charge.
Now, to be clear, they only bring up recent criminal history. They say October disorderly conduct charge, and that's not all that serious. And obviously, this is not something that bail reform would guarantee an abnormal same-day automatic release, because typically you get released without bail for disorderly conduct. But if you heard, this guy skipped a bunch of different court dates, and one of the purposes of bail is to remand people to custody that flee justice. This person was allowed to do so because even in instances where people skip their court dates, it is incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for you to hold them in prison or in jail awaiting trial to make sure they actually face justice with any financial bail. And these lefties will tell you the whole purpose of bail is to create a financial incentive for people to show back up to court, but it was never implemented in this case. There were no consequences, no action on a bench warrant, despite the fact that this guy was in a residence right across the street from a police department. This is an impact of bail reform, criminal justice reform, an absolute disaster, and the social worker implication right here is what happens if we pushed even further in the direction of the left. It would be a disaster in every possible way.
The union representing social workers told me, "We are devastated our member was assaulted while working in the community. A tragic reminder of the risks CSEA members face providing essential services."
Now look, I understand why the union is defending this woman and saying, yeah, we're absolutely shocked about this. It is a reminder of the risks that these people face. And I agree, these people normally face some level of risk as social workers, and we shouldn't just crap on them because they're social workers. That being said, these left-wingers want these people to intentionally go out and deal with these criminals, intentionally deal with the increased risk that is associated with what used to be, or what they want to be, previously police work, because they think that they can handle it. But the fact of the matter is, they cannot handle it. And what's even more insane about this, what's even more crazy, is that every time people try to disassemble the police, try to say that they're useless, try to get rid of them and all that, all they end up doing, all they end up proposing as a solution are tried and true tested methods of police officers in the past and ways that things became normal for them, because we realize when we see these kind of situations, when we see these kind of experiences, that the police department, the institution, the way that these departments are structured has a purpose. There's a reason behind it. So get a load of the solution proposed by the social workers in order to deal with dangerous situations that social workers might interact with.
The union told me this is the worst attack on a member in recent memory, and it supports actions taken by Westchester County to better protect DSS staff, understandably rattled by the crime. County Executive Latimer approving an emergency contract to expand security escorts, and some caseworkers now going out in pairs to community and home visits.
So first of all, this guy's obviously discount Keith Olbermann. I just want to point that out. But did you hear what they propose as the solution for these social workers, these people that are going to replace the police? They want them to go out in pairs, aka have partners on the job, on the beat, and they also want armed uniformed security with these people, and it would be really cool if you could actually merge the pairs of people with the armed security and then have them in a very distinct vehicle, maybe with some lights and whatnot, so you could clear through traffic. They're recreating the police. That's my point right here. The social worker interacted with the criminal by accident. It was an absolute disaster. And the first thing that they push for is for them to operate in pairs and have armed security. So instead of 2 uniformed police officers dealing with the criminals, we're going to have 2 ununiformed social workers and at least 1 armed security guard in order to deal with them. So we're going to pay 3 people for the job that it used to take 2 people to deal with. And by the way, they're still going to lose fights to the criminals like this Hakeem Jenkins guy. Now look, I don't have a mugshot for Hakeem Jenkins. I don't have an extensive criminal history because that has not been released yet. But if you guys are interested, maybe I'll look into it and do a follow-up when we actually get the full history. But the fact of the matter is, these people are existing in our society. They are dangerous. And again, it doesn't take much to set them off. Now, I know Westchester native Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says that Jenkins probably attacked this woman in order to feed his starving family. He's just Aladdin. But I'm going to beg to disagree because it didn't really seem like a crime of economic desperation, if I'm being perfectly fair. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about when a social worker faces a criminal. Till next time.